So John's got a brand new jacket. John, I'm going to need sunglasses to work next to you today. That's so bright. But I know it won't be that way very long. Yeah. So we have a yard of 72 colonies here near Hollywood, Georgia. I don't like yards that large. We're going to cut this yard in half. 32 of these are going to get moved to another spot this week. It's been a long time since we were here. I'm sure many of these are plugged out with honey. We probably should have been back a week or two ago to check for adding extra supers. Just couldn't make it, just too busy. And these nukes are over a month old, so we'll be checking these. And because they're over a month old, I'm sure some of the duds have turned into laying workers, but we'll sort all that out. And we're going to prep half of these colonies to move either tomorrow night or the night after, move them up to Dillard, Georgia. The spring honey flow here is definitely over. The only potential honey between now and sourwood in this location is actually persimmon. Some of my yards that are south of the shop actually have a little bit of persimmon trees wild in the woods, and we can make, I don't know, 10 to 30 pounds on that depending on the season, so they'll make a little more, but the major heavy honey flow, spring honey flow, is actually over. She'll come out of that. Got a colony, there she comes, virgin queen hatching. Got a colony that has swarmed and got multiple virgins hatching at the same time. It's always kind of fun to see. It's not fun that the colony is swarmed, but it's fun to have all these virgins running around. Of course, one of the first things she's going to do is find herself a little sip of honey if she can. And of course the bees will feed her too. I get asked about elderberries from time to time. People want to know if they work them. If there's anything I've learned over the years, it's that what happens in my neighborhood is not necessarily what's happening somewhere else. In our area, the bees do not work elderberries much. I've only occasionally seen a few bees on it, and we don't have a nectar flow at the moment in this location, so if there was something there for them, they'd definitely be on it. In the southern Appalachians, just barely south of the shop, and we also have bees in western North Carolina. I don't see them work the elderberry up there either. I do occasionally hear of someone talking about the bees working the elderberry in other regions, other areas, other states, but bottom line in our area is that I just don't think they hardly work them at all. It's funny how different regions can do different things. This is our most southern yard, also our lowest elevation. And the spring honey flow is for the most part over. There's some minor things yet to come in, but the major stuff is done. We've brought triangle bee escapes, so we got a lot of weight in this yard to pull. And of course, these are single-story colonies with an excluder, and that third box that we added a week ago is still got plenty of room in it. We'll leave that behind, take all the heavy boxes, and be back in a few weeks when it's time to prepare for sourwood honey. We can strip off any honey in that second deep there and give them a fresh box. Probably start using medium supers at that time. I like using mediums with the sourwood. All of our mediums are virgin comb, very clean comb. Our deep comb is kind of mixed. It's had some brood reared in it, whereas our mediums have not for the most part. Anyway, there is some weight in this yard. They did good. They could make a little more persimmon before the sourwood. A few pounds on persimmon, a few pounds on Dutch white clover. This yard can also make a little bit of honeydew, so hopefully they'll gain another 10, 20, 30 pounds before the sourwood starts, but you never know. So we have to leave them with some weight. We can't strip all the honey off because if nothing's coming in, they could actually shut down and kind of go backwards. So as near as I can tell so far, these second stories that we added, this third box that we added a week ago has some weight in it, so that should keep them from shutting down until sourwood picks up. Most of the boxes are pretty full. A few aren't, but a lot of weight in these deeps. The older I get, the less I like lifting them. That's okay. When you think about honey's money, it makes it easier. Are any of those light, or are they all heavy?
None of them are light, so I'm going to get a drawing comb from the truck.
Yeah, get another empty.
And get a couple honeys too.
And then she'll take 2 frames of honey out of one of these boxes and put it in the empty that she gave them, so they don't run completely out of food. I think there'll be a trickle flow in here, but I just want a little extra insurance. John's checking for any escape holes in these boxes. That's another issue with bee escapes. If there are any cracks or crevices that bees can get in and out of, other colonies will go in and rob that stack out because there'll not be anybody in there to defend it. So, we did okay here on honey, considering that this yard actually had 2 rounds of nukes taken out of it, so that's pretty good. And then we do have had some duds here, some colonies that went queenless, and we'll restock these. This is a Chinese chestnut tree. There's a few in our county, not a tremendous amount. People planted them in the last century to kind of replace the American chestnuts, which were a tremendous food source for the wildlife and the people. I've been told that there were as many as 1 in 6 trees in the forest were American chestnut. When it came down with the blight and disappeared, people planted these around their old farmsteads and around old houses. We've got one bee yard that's got several around it, and the house hasn't been there for 50 years. Very old trees that somebody had planted way back when. It's a minor nectar source simply because there aren't a lot of them. If there were a lot of them, I think it'd show up in the supers a lot more. It's dark honey, it's not very good, so maybe it's a good thing that there isn't a bunch of it. The bees work the heck out of it, and you can see it in the supers because the color contrasts with everything else. Very dark. So we're in Wolford Valley again, just out of Raven Gap, Georgia, very close to the western North Carolina line. We're coming back to a yard that we haven't been to in quite a while. We split it entirely to pieces. Every colony got down to 2 or 3 frames of brood. Lots of nukes got made. There's some on the whole row on the other side of the truck too. A lot of sourwood in this location. The hills, I could turn 360 around here and you can see all the hills. They're all covered with sourwood trees. It's a good sourwood location. We harvested a handful of queens this morning, 25 to be exact. It's nice to just take queens around with us as we work. Even in a yard like this that's all brand new queens, we'll find 1 or 2 that we don't like. Just like any animal, not 100% of them turn out perfect. So even though these are all brand new queens, there might be 1 or 2 that get replaced. My experience is that bad queens generally don't get better if they have a bad pattern right now when they're brand new. We'll replace them, no problem. We're in a yard of bees on Highlands Road between Dillard and Highlands, North Carolina. And we left it about a month ago with a lot of queen cells, and some of them have grown up quite nicely. And we're in a situation where it's just about 1 month, perhaps 5 weeks to sourwood in this location. Some of these singles have grown up to be quite stout, and my main worry is that if they get real stout leading up to the sourwood flow, some of them can swarm. Singles with an excluder are problematic when it comes to swarming unless the honey flow is already underway. And so what we're going to do is we're going to shake off some of the sealed brood in this. I've already shaken off 3 frames of sealed brood. And actually there's even a 4th here that I'm going to shake off. Kind of glance for the queen. So that's 4 frames of sealed brood. And then we've got these deep boxes of drawn comb that we've been saving. They've been in the cooler all winter, so they're in real good shape. And I'm going to give this queen downstairs lots of drawn comb to... A lot of racket on this road. A lot of comb to lay into. All of this extra room will keep them in check and also give the colony the ability to grow rapidly. This box even has some old laying worker that we shook out last year. I'm going to give that to them. They can clean that out. Another one. So she's got 3 frames of brood in there. Just gave her all that empty comb. We're going to put 4 frames of sealed brood upstairs, which will hatch out, and they will backfill it with nectar over the next few weeks, and this will become a wildflower honey box, which we will harvest just ahead of the sourwood at the last minute, just before the sourwood starts. Perfect. And of course the queen's down there because we shook all the bees off. We'll give that colony a queen excluder, put this up above. I'll do that. There's the excluder. They're sitting on their lid. This was a nuke over a double screen board that was made at the same time, and it's actually pretty stout. So we have 2 choices. We could make it a 2 queen system, but rather than do that, I'm just going to take this nuke that was up above. The entrance was back here. Actually, it was right there. I'm just going to set it on this pallet back here, and it'll have it. We'll restart this location. We sold over half the bees in this yard, so most of the pallets are at least half empty or more. We'll start that nuke right there. I think most of the bees will find their entrance right there. It'll work pretty good. And I think we have to give them a super too. Let's see what Selena's got going on here, John.
So my lower box is a little smaller, but it's queen right.
Okay.
This top one is
So look what they did with the rim on there. We were really running a little too late. That's the problem with rims. Sometimes they'll build up there and make a big mess. You have to clean that up and sort it out. Our mistake. Those rims should have been taken off a month ago. We left them on, which was a mistake. We're taking the feeders out. They don't need these feeders anymore. We'll put 2 empty comb where those black feeders were. So that's a nuke that came off the top of this one. We're going to let it be right, same situation. We're going to put it right here. It'll establish this location. We'll carve that junk off, give them 2 empty comb, put an excluder on, and an empty deep on top of that. This is also a place where we can make a little basswood honey, so the potential for another 20, 30, perhaps 40 pounds of spring honey is here. And the basswood can go right up into the sourwood, so sometimes it's tricky to keep the basswood out of the sourwood. We'll be in this location right around the 1st of July, checking all these boxes and stripping off everything just ahead of the sourwood flow. Sorry for the mess. Got to make sure the queen's not in there too. All right.
Okay, Selena and John here at the Walmart yard. We harvested queens out of these nukes yesterday because we needed them to requeen some of our colonies. So now we are dropping 48-hour cells back into these nukes that we left set up with 2 frames of brood. John's going through this nuke right now to make sure that we squish any cups that they started to make so that they'll have a better chance of accepting our cell.
Here we go. She's going to squish them just to get rid of them.
So now that we went through all of the nukes and checked for rogue cells and squished all of them, we are going to install our 48-hour cells.
This is the 48-hour cells on the bar.